Welcome to Newcastle County VOTEC Live. I am Vicki Garrett. I'm Superintendent of Newcastle County VOTEC School District. And I have the pleasure today of having with me Coach Dan Ritter, who and his team and his coaches won the Division II state championship for football for the state of Delaware. So I am really pleased to have you here with us today.
Thank you.
So I want to start off by having you tell a little bit about yourself and your background. You're an educator. You're also a coach. So tell us a little bit about what have you taught and how long have you been coaching, and has it always been football, or have you also dabbled in any other coaching experiences?
Well, education-wise, I started at Newcastle County VOTEC roughly 17 years ago as a social studies instructor. And then I made my way up to social studies department chair, and then from there I got certified in driver's education. Did not really teach driver's education, and then I became the learning support coach at Howard.
Okay, well, how about on coaching side?
Coaching,
tell us a little bit about that.
Coaching, I came out of high school with a Division II scholarship. I played 1 year at Shippensburg. Didn't particularly like it and came home. And my first year back, my head football coach in high school asked me to coach the Capitol Trail team. So I did that for 2 years, and then it was then that I realized that I really liked coaching. So I started coaching high school at Caravel Academy. And then from Caravel, I did 2 weeks at Polytech, and then the social studies position came open here. And with that came a assistant coach job at Delcastle. And I did that for 2 years, and then the last 15 I've been at Howard.
Always football?
Yes. I've dabbled in some other things, but I've always coached football.
Well, let's go back to last year. Last year, you had your 100th win as a coach for football. How did that feel?
Pretty good. It was a unique experience in that you hit your 100th win, and I've done it with several coaches, staffs. So I've had some that stayed, and I've had some turnover. So it was pretty rewarding. It was exciting to watch the kids go out on a high note. We had played 2 games kind of back to back. We played a Sunday game, and then because of weather, and then we played more of that last night on a Thursday night. So it was kind of interesting, the dynamic of playing a Sunday, getting ready for a game that was literally 4 days away. So I thought the kids did a nice job. I thought the coaching staff did a nice job.
Well, let's talk about the big game.
Okay.
So last Saturday, well, I'm saying last Saturday, but let me say December 5th, was the evening that St. George's and Howard had the championship game for Division II football. So let's talk a little bit about how you prepared your young men for that game. How did you prepare them? Because I believe you were defeated by St. George's early in the season.
Yes.
So how were you preparing them for this game?
Well, I think a lot had changed. In week 2, we were still trying to find ourselves, we being Howard, still trying to find ourselves. I had 3 new assistant coaches and a handful of new players. So we were trying to find where they fit best. And St. George's is an established program, and they had guys returning who had played their positions, so they kind of had the upper hand. And then as the season went along, we started to fit our pieces into the right spots. And then by the championship game, I thought we had the right pieces in the right places.
And no one else knew you had the pieces in the right places at that point?
Well, I think my team themselves knew.
Meaning other coaches?
I don't think so. I honestly don't believe there was anybody in the state of Delaware that thought we were going to beat St. George's in the state championship game.
Well, why would that be? So in other words, obviously the team had strengths. There were strengths that your team has, your players. And generally coaches from other teams look for your weaknesses so they know where to really put their energy and effort to stop you. So talk about the strengths that the young men have, and where do you think people saw the weaknesses that you were able to kind of fool them with when you actually got on that field with boys? The young men, I should say.
I think in the championship game, I think St. George's, having played us already, thought that we would be similar to week 2. And if you didn't scout us and look into us with a little bit more depth, you'd understand that our offensive line had changed. Our wide receiver, Corey Ken, had developed into one of the state's best. We had a defensive back that had 10 interceptions and led the state. So those were some of the strengths. I would say weakness-wise, versus St. George's, you know, they were a bigger, stronger team. And I think they thought that they were just going to outmuscle us.
So, everyone, let's say coaches have a playbook, right? Do you have a playbook?
We do.
So talk to me about this playbook. Are there a lot of secrets in this playbook?
Yeah, it's so secretive that it's not written down.
So talk about this playbook.
Well, it honestly started from when I coached at Del Castle under Dan Pritchard. He kind of formatted the offense in such a way that I took it to Howard and adjusted it a little bit, made it a little bit simpler, and then it just kind of has grown through the years. You know, when we first started, we might have had 6 run plays and 3 formations, and now we're probably 12 formations, same 6 run plays, but we move people around a lot more, and I think that causes teams some distractions.
So what is, now tell me, because you know the coaches have these playbooks. So what are the secrets that you can't talk about? Is there a secret you can tell us that you really shouldn't be telling us?
Well, I don't know that it's a secret, but I think on defense this year we tried to keep things very simple,
Right.
and we tried to take the thinking out of it so that our guys could be athletes and move fast. And I thought towards the end of the season we did a really good job with that, coupled with the fact that our middle linebacker is also our class valedictorian. So when there was a mistake on the field, he could correct it for us. And it was funny because towards the end of the season, Jeremiah and I would meet about an hour before we went out for defensive practice for the week, and we would go over everything. And then while I was going over it with the team, he could, A, correct me if I made a mistake, but he could also talk to the guys and say, hey, this is what he's saying. So if they didn't get my coach speak,
Right.
then they could get it on a different level by
So
a player.
He really took quite a leadership role.
He did. He did. He's an exceptional young man.
So describe a play for me. So in other words, as a novice person not knowing all the plays, so describe one of the plays that you really would want your your young men to go through.
Well,
Describe how you would talk to them about a particular play you want them to do.
well, oftentimes we put our plays in during camp in August, and what we usually do, what we try to do anyway, is we'll draw the play up on the board.
Right.
If we have some video footage, we'll show video footage of it, and then we'll try and get that transference from the classroom to the field. And then once that's done, then we talk about the huddle and how we communicate the play from sideline to the huddle. And that's basically it. And we rep it and rep it and rep it. It's just like vocabulary words.
But then why are some people so successful? Is it all based on the talent on the field? What else really enables a team to have the success that your Howard players had on December 5th?
Well, I think it's more the players than the coaches, because I've been at Howard 15 years. 15 years, and there are still plays that we run, all 15 years, and sometimes they're successful and other years they're not. And I think that's more the players than it is the play, because, nothing has changed formation-wise, nothing has changed how we execute it.
Right.
It's just the players that do the execution.
So how many total players do you have between your varsity and your JV?
Roughly 55.
Is that normal year to year for you?
In the last couple of years, it's increased. We usually start around 75, and then through the process of heat and running, various other things, we lose some kids.
Sure.
And then we wrap up probably high 40s usually.
The stamina, you have to have the stamina. And of course, going through August is really proves whether they can really cut it or not. But let me ask you this, talk a little bit about next year. So what are you looking forward to next year with the team coming?
Well, I think there's some really young kids. We played a whole host of sophomores that'll have another year to develop. And I truly believe that there's 4 or 5 players in that class that will come up and possibly be Division I scholarship kids. We have a 6'4", 6'5" tight end. We have a 6'2" D lineman. We have 2 skill kids that are very fast, very aggressive. And our fullback in the championship game, who was only a sophomore, scored 3 times.
That's fantastic. It really is. So, tell me, were you pleasantly surprised? Were you, on December 5th, were you expecting the win that you had? I mean, that was a pretty substantial score differential between the 2 teams. What were you thinking through the game? Now, you're not going to share, of course, with the players, but what were you thinking?
I thought that we needed to play a perfect game because of who St. George's is and what they've done in the past. I thought we needed to play a perfect game and we needed to be very physical. And after the first drive where they scored and we went down and scored, I kind of got that feeling that my guys weren't going to stop, and they didn't. It was really unique standing on the sideline at a minute before halftime thinking, okay, we're going to win this. And then going in at halftime, and we're not talking about making adjustments. We're talking about basically keep going, keep giving 100%. Don't let up, which was kind of different than what I thought would be at halftime. I thought it would be like the Friends game where we had to come from behind, or the Tower Hill game where they would score, we would score, they would score, we would score. Right. Or games during the regular season where it was 6-6 or we're down 12-7 and had to come back. Because that's kind of been our MO this year. So it was kind of different walking in the championship game ahead at halftime. And not only ahead, but really feeling like you had the upper hand.
Well, I particularly like and I cannot remember the player's name that had the quote in the paper, who basically said that it was important that they stayed humble second half, which I thought was a great quote, and I really kind of wish I remembered which one of your players said that. But I thought that was just really well said, that they were ahead, but he felt that they needed to stay humble, or perhaps they may not have.
I think that might have been our running back, Wiggins. It was interesting because at halftime, one of our sophomores comes up to me and says, hey, I want to talk to the guys. He's like, but I want you to introduce me. And I'm looking at him and I'm like, huh? Introduce you? And he said, basically, if you introduce me, they'll listen to me. So I did. And then he gave this passionate speech about keep going and giving 110% and don't let up, and we're here. We don't know if we're coming back, and let's get this now. And it was really interesting. And he talked about, hey, don't throw this in anybody's face. Just do your job, do it well, and let's go home.
Wow. So were you totally wowed by that presentation that he
made? I was, and it's funny because after the championship game, we've been a couple places with the News Journal and the mayor coming in,
right.
and his speech has been referenced. And this is Malik Banks, a sophomore, who gave that passionate speech, or this is Malik the speech, Banks. So it's been kind of interesting for him. I don't know if he's picked up on it, but every time he's introduced, one of the coaches makes mention of it. So
have you come off the cloud yet?
No. No. It's interesting because there are times at home that I have the article on one of my counters in the kitchen, and I'll walk by it and I'll be like, let me read that again. So I'm not 100% sure that it'll sink in for quite a while.
Well, you had a tremendous achievement, and I just want to commend you and your coaches, and certainly your players. This was a first for Howard High School of Technology, and I believe even the legacy of Howard High School itself. So congratulations on a first for Howard for a Division II championship for football.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for your time today.
Thank you.